First and foremost, I want to say all praise to Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahweh Shah. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone that rule well. And much love and salutation to you brothers pushing this truth and sincerity on the four corners of the earth. All right, I want to get into this quick lesson. I'm going to read a chapter. I'm going to read chapter 2 Maccabees chapter 7. Okay. Reading this for the purpose of building the faith, This is a story that, that when I read this story, this story here made me go real hard, This was a story I read, very, early off into coming into this truth, And this here story gave me, a real big spiritual booster because of the fact of looking at my brother and the things that they went through. They say the things that was written 4 times was basically written for our basically edification, roughly paraphrasing. They gave us the blueprint to follow. So I'm gonna just jump into this real quick. But this is this here story here is I'm reading this in with the mark of the beast in mind. When it's time for when you're gonna get forced with that chip, when you get put before kings and stuff like that, when it's time for you to actually the hour of temptation, what are you gonna do at those points of times? It's easy to say, oh, I'm not gonna take the chip, but like, you know what I'm saying, you might not know what's gonna be in that room, when you're in that room, and what you might be seeing somebody getting picked apart, piece by piece by piece, and they telling you like, what, this don't have to happen to you, as long as you take this chip, and then you have to look look yourself in the eyes and ask yourself if you're gonna be strong enough to not crack under pressure, or you're gonna just sit there and fold, And here's an account in the Bible where they weren't being forced with the microchip, but something just as bad, It was either do this or get put to death, So I'm gonna read this story and let it be a testimony, and hopefully it's a spiritual booster that you brothers can remember this story when that time comes, So I'm gonna start. This is 2 Maccabees chapter 7. It came to pass also that 7 brethren with their mother was taken and compelled by the king against the law to taste swan's flesh, and they were tormented with scourges and whips. Okay, so basically the king here is basically it says the king here is basically wanting them to eat swan's flesh, which is against the law and the scripture, And so they say swan's flesh. They say swan's flesh here, but it's like battery dying. Position here. All right, we're good. It says swan's flesh here, And when I read this story here, I thought about what they call pig skins, pork rinds, or or anything like that. But also you could compare this to like bacon. It's all swan anyway. I mean that's an unlawful food for us. And basically you're gonna see these brothers go hard over not eating basically like bacon. And it was swan's flesh, but at the same time, some of you brothers like, oh, I can't give up bacon. I can't give up bacon. Well, Lord willing, after you hear this story here and you see what happened over eating just swan's flesh, that might just be it for you, Okay, so I'm gonna get back into this. This is 2 Maccabees chapter 7 verse 1. And it came to pass that 7 brethren with their mother were taken and compelled by the king against the law to taste swan's flesh, and were tormented with scourges and whips. But one of them that spake first said thus, what wouldest thou ask or learn of us? We are ready to die rather than to transgress the laws of our father. Okay, and that's going to be basically the subject at hand. It says they're ready to die than rather transgress the law of our fathers. That's the spirit you brothers are supposed to be in when it's time to get that chip. When it's time to go against when your faith is really being tried. Maybe you're going to be out without food and water, and you see some swan and stuff like that. Do you eat the swan, or do you just let it go by and then you keep starving? And it's not a trick question, but the answer is you have faith. Okay, you have faith that the Most High is going to provide for you. Okay? It says, but one of them spake first and said, what wouldst thou ask or learn of us? So basically, what you want from us, bro? What you want, us to do, Like, we'd rather die than eat this swan's flesh, But at the same time, the king just basically wanted to be an asshole just to see, what's going on here, It says, verse 3, and the king being in a rage commanded pans and cauldrons to be made hot. So basically, he said, all right, basically make a big ass, like, when you see in those cartoons, the witch's cauldron, this big, pot, and, on the stove or on the fire. He says, basically get that ready. He says, verse 3, then the king being in a rage commanded pans and cauldrons to be made hot, which forthwith being heated, and commanded to cut out the tongue of him that spake first. Okay, so he basically had this big pot put on, and it's gonna have a bunch of oil and stuff in there. It's like you got a big pot of chicken grease, basically, and you put the chicken inside the grease and it start popping and all that stuff, It's basically a big pot of that, It says, which forthwith being heated, he commanded to cut out the tongue of him that spake first, and to cut off the utmost parts of his body, and the rest of his brethren and his mother looked on. Okay. Verse 5. Now when he was thus maimed in all his members, he commanded him, being yet alive, to be brought to the fire, and to be fried in the pan. And as the vapors of the pan was for a good space dispersed, they exhorted one another with the mother to die manfully, saying thus. Okay, so the king got mad because the first one basically spoke up and saying, you know what you want from us, what you trying to get from us? We ready to die than to transgress the laws of the Most High, We rather die than eat this pork. We rather die than go against the will of the Most High, And so the king was like, all right, you want to be funny? He cut his tongue off and he cut off his members, his body parts, and heated up a big ass pan of oil, Basically, in Jake term, he done made a big pot of fish grease and fried this motherfucker, Cut him all up and put his ass in a pan. And then it says when the smoke had dispersed, you drop that fish inside the grease, or the chicken inside the grease, you hear it sizzling and the smoke and stuff go up. He put a whole person in there alive still, while he was still alive and all cut the fuck up. He had his tongue cut out, his members all cut up, and then he threw him inside this frying pan while he was still alive, And his mother and them his mother and his 6 brothers sat there watching on, and his mother said, and they exhorted one another with the mother to die manfully, saying thus. Okay, so the brothers and the mother, they was consulting back and forth with each other, saying die manly. Okay, and what is the scriptures here teaches you basically how to be a man. Stand up for what you believe in. The law, statutes, and commandment. Don't fall. Don't be a bitch just because you see that pan and your brother got his shit fucked up. Don't worry about all of that. The Most High got you. Verse 6. And this is what the mother said. And the Lord, verse 6, and the Lord Yahweh looked upon us, and in truth has comfort in us, as Moses and his song which witnessed to their faces, declaring, saying, and he shall be comforted in his servants. Verse 7, so when the first was dead after this manner, they brought the second to make him a mocking stock. And when they had pulled off the skin of his head, okay, let's stop there. So they brought the second one in. Now, as you start getting an understanding of what's going on here, the king basically is just having fun, He's just torturing them, just for fun. He's like, you know what, we want to see what it look like if we just fry a nigga up real quick, We want to see what that might be like, So he just getting off on torturing Jake, But Jake is like, you know what? We rather die for the scriptures, what the Most High said, and instead of just bowing down to this heathen, and what good would that be, You know, the Most High, if you're in a good standing with the Most High, and all of a sudden you bow down to get a little bit more life, you might live the rest of your life in basically damnation, knowing that you turned your back on the Most High, and He's gonna turn His back on you. You know, you might as well just die right then and there. You know, it says, verse 7. So when the first was dead after this manner, they brought the second to make him a mocking stock. So they just did, again, they were just doing this just for fun. And when they had pulled off the skin of his head and the hair, they asked him. Okay, so basically they skinned this motherfucker and well, not motherfucker, excuse my language. They skinned this brother and they Indian scalped him. So they wanted what they say here in America, you know, they Indian scalped him. They peeled his skin back and pulled his hair out, you know, his scalp back. It says when they pulled the skin off his head and the hairs, they asked him, "Wilt thou eat before thou be punished throughout every member of thy body?" So they didn't already started doing some work on the old boy, skinning him and everything. Then they're gonna ask him, "You gonna eat this for this, you know, the edification of this to make it easier. You know, we're gonna just reference this as bacon." He's basically saying, "You gonna eat the bacon, or you gonna, you know," mind you, they didn't pull the skin off and his hair off, you know, scalped him. Then they're gonna ask him, "You gonna eat the bacon, or you gonna get chopped up like the other one did," you know? And he says, verse 8, but he answered in his own language and said, so first of all, instead of giving them, giving them, the response in the language that they spoke, he spoke in his own language, basically saying, "Fuck you, bruh. We soldiers over here, bruh. This is how we gonna die," you know? He says, but then he answered in his own language and said, "No. Wherefore he also received the next torment in order as the former did." So they scalped him, pulled his skin off, cut his tongue off, cut his members up, and threw his ass in a pan, you know. Verse 9. And when he was at the last gasp, he said, Thou like a fury takest us out of this present life, but the king of this world shall raise us up, who have died for his laws unto everlasting life. Okay? So it's basically saying like, yo, you might have killed me or whatever, you know, you might have took my body away, but the Most High gonna raise me back up, you know? Don't worry about all that. We good over here. Verse 10. After him was a third made a mocking stock, and when he was required, he put out his tongue, and that right soon holding forth his hands manfully. Okay, so they brought the third one up, and they made a mocking stock after him too as well. And so by this time, the third brother already knew what was going down, you know, and there wasn't no guile in his heart, or like they say in this earth, there wasn't no bitchness in his heart. He wasn't no bitch, you know. He say, "Hey, look, they're my brothers. We gonna ride together. We gonna die together." So he rode up to the king. He was like, "Look, bruh, do what you gotta do. Put his tongue out. Do what you gotta do. Don't even waste my time, bro. I know you finna do this. Put your work in, bro. Let me see if you really about that life, or you gonna have remorse. You really standing for what you believe in? We standing for what we believe in. You know, we gonna see who gonna fall first. If we all gotta die, then we all gotta die. But we not gonna bow down to you. You know." And another spiritual booster to this is the movie 300, Leonidas and Xerxes. You know, Leonidas knew that he was outnumbered and that Xerxes was about to come down on his ass. But they had morals and standards. They wasn't bowing down to no fucking heathen. They rather die than to bow down to some heathen like that, you know, and to be a slave. They rather die fighting than be a slave, you know. It says and after him the third was made a mocking stock, and when he was required, he put out his tongue, and that right soon holding forth his hands manfully. Okay, like a man. He went out like a man and said courageously, you know, full of courage, "These I had from heaven, and for his laws I despised them, and from him I hope to receive them again." Okay, he says, put his hands forward. He's like, "Yo, I got these hands from the Most High, but I don't give a fuck about these hands, you know? That the Most High, that the Most High be glorified, basically, you know? I give all this shit up, you know, to stand for the Most High, because he gave me this shit, you know? He can give it back to me again, you know?" He says, verse 12, insomuch that the king and they that were with him marveled at the young man's courage, for that he nothing regarded the pains. So basically, they was dying like men, like true soldiers of Yahweh Shem Yahweh, The first brother, went in and got chopped up, cooked. The second brother went out, stuck his tongue out, his hands out. I was like, come on, let's get on with it. And the third one was like, I don't give a fuck about these hands. The Most High gave me these hands and he'll give them back to me. Then that put the king back, just like Xerxes. And Xerxes stood up and be like, who the fuck is this little nigga that's going to stand up to the greatest army, Even Xerxes had to stand up and admire the fight, He said, and it made Xerxes think, like, yo, all the people that's fighting and dying for Xerxes, they doing that because they slaves. They ain't got no choice, But we fighting for our own lives and our freedom, We fighting because, we want to. We not being forced to, It says, and it said the king marveled at, his courage, And just think about that the king's men that he had that was chopping these people up, The king probably thinking to himself, man, my own men don't even have this kind of courage. I don't even have this kind of courage. Who are these people, that are just sitting here getting chopped the fuck up and cooked, and they don't even care, they so-called worshiping this God that, who is these people, This is how the Most High's name is being glorified amongst, the heathen and amongst all, throughout the whole earth, Let me read verse 12 again. And so much that the king and they that were with him marveled at the young man's courage, for that he nothing regarded the pains. So he didn't even worry about the pain. He was just like, let's just get it over with. Verse 13. Now when this man was dead also, they tormented and mangled the fourth in like manner. So they're just going down the line. They on number 4 now. And so when he was ready to die, he said thus, it is good being put to death by men, to look for hope from Yahweh, to be raised up again by him. As for thee, thou shalt have no resurrection to life. Okay? So what he's saying here is like, look, man, it's an honor for us to be put to death for, like the scriptures say, for my name's sake. You're going to be hated for my name's sake. It's a glorious thing to be put to death or a martyr doing his work, standing firm for Yahweh B'Shem Yahweh, because he going to raise us back up. But the heathen and Esau, they ain't no repentance for Esau, I'd rather die for this truth, standing firmly, knowing I'm going to be raised back up. But, look at you, once this is over for you, you're going to come back in slavery, forever. It says, now when this man was dead also, they tormented and mangled the fourth in like manner. So when he was ready to die, he said thus, it is good being put to death by men, to look for hope from Yahweh, to be raised up again. As for thee, thou shalt have no resurrection to life. Verse 15. Afterward they brought forth the fifth also and mangled him. Then looked he unto the king and said, thou hast power over men. Thou art corruptible. Thou dost what thou wilt. Yet think not of our nation is forsaken of Yahweh. Okay? So, he says basically he's corruptible and he does whatever he will. But don't think that our nation is forsaken by the Most High, Yeah, you might be rolling on us right now. Jacob's trouble might be coming in. That martial law might be coming in. Project Megiddo and all of that. But don't think that the Most High done forgot about his people. Yeah, 2/3 got to be put to death. But, the elect, the 1/3, 144,000 going to be raised up, It says, but abide a while, and behold his great power. But abide a while, and behold his great power, how he will torment thee and thy seed. Okay? Talking about when they go into slavery. After him also they brought the sixth, whom being ready to die, said, be not deceived without cause. Okay? So he was already ready to die. He says, be deceived without cause, for we suffer these things for ourselves, having sinned against our power. Therefore, marvelous things are done unto us. So they understood through the Spirit that the punishment and torture they was getting was because they had went off, and they was still, in a high spirit because they know that, that man can't do nothing to them. But the reason that they was catching this hell and this torment, for one, it was for, the things that was written aforetime was written for our learning and basically our edification. But at the same time, the Most High, set a contract for us, and we wound up going off. So at that point in time, it was punishment time. It says, verse 19, but think not thou hast taken in hand to strive against Yahweh, that thou shalt escape unpunished. But the mother was marvelous above all, and worthy of honorable memory. For when she saw her 7 sons were slain, and when she saw her 7 sons were slain within the space of one day, she bare it with good courage, because of the hope that she had in the Lord. Okay, and now, this is a great example for, a lot of people. How many, if there's any mothers or fathers watching this, how many of you would, being in this position, would tell your sons, die like men? Of course you love your children, but at the same time, where they're gonna have to go after that. They got to go see their maker. They rather please the maker as they were dying out, or would they rather please the king that was going to put them to death anyway? King was wicked, he was putting them to death. So why would you want to please him? Why not please the Most High? So you got to put yourself in. You gotta try to live these scriptures. Put yourself in that position. You being faced with this chip, and you got your kids right there. And they're gonna tell you, look, we're gonna behead you and your kids if y'all don't take this chip. What do you do then? Do you tell your child, go ahead and take the chip, just so he don't get beheaded? Or do you look, you're going to have to behead me and my child, Verse 21. Yea, she exhorted every one of them in her own language, filled with courageous spirits, and stirring up her womanish thoughts with a manly stomach, she said unto them, okay, I cannot tell how ye came into my womb, for neither I gave ye breath nor life, neither was it I that formed the members of every one of you. Okay, so she's basically saying, look, she basically, like they say in the world, she put her big boy pants on. She was, she basically was coming to him with the truth. She basically gave it to him straight, no chaser. She said, look, I don't know how you came into my womb, Obviously, sperm put him in there, but what she's saying is how you was formed in her womb, I don't know basically how your bones came together and all that stuff, and, so on and so forth and all that type of stuff. But the reply is, but doubtless the creator of the world, whom formed the generations of man, and found out the beginnings of all things, will also of his own mercy give you breath and life again, as you now regard not your own selves for his law's sake. So she said basically, look, I don't know how, the bones was formed inside of my body to form you guys as she was pregnant with you, or where you got your first breath from, but it was the Most High who gave you that formed, put the flesh and all that stuff in your organs and all that stuff and gave you breath, and it says, he give you life again, as you now regard not your own selves for his law's sake. He said, and the scriptures say, for he that try to save his life shall lose his life, but he that shall lose his life shall save his life. Great. Here's a great example of that. And now Antiochus, thinking himself despised and suspecting it to be a reproachful speech, whilst the youngest was still alive, did not only exhort him by words, but also assured him with oaths that he would make him both rich and a happy man if he would turn from the laws of his fathers, that also he would take him after for his friend and trust him with affairs. Okay, that's getting into basically selling out. Selling your soul. Look, no man shall buy or eat save he that has this mark. Look, bro, just go against the Most High. We'll take care of you. These celebrities. Just go against. Don't tell these people. Keep these people asleep. We'll make you rich above all. And the king's thinking like, look, bro, like we see the power that you got. The most dangerous thing there is on this planet Earth, as far as Esau is concerned, is how they say it's an educated black man. And we're not talking scholastically. We're talking about in these scriptures. It's the power that he has over us. Is the scriptures say, know the truth, and the truth shall set you free. We have these scriptures. It builds our faith, and that's what's gonna set us free. And it says, but when the young man would in no case hearken unto him, the king called his mother and exhorted her that she would counsel the young man to save his life. Again, this is going into, like I said, like the mark of the beast. This is like an account basically that you should try to put yourself into. So now the king is bringing in the mother to try to get the son to sell out. So you might be tried with these scenarios. You got your mother, look, son, just take this chip and we gonna all eat. They say they're gonna put me to death. They're gonna put the kids to death, your kids to death. You don't just take this chip. You can't be listening to all that. And this is a prime example of all that. Don't worry about all that. Let's say the boy's mother was going off and she was like, no, y'all gotta live. I love you. Don't put me through all of this stuff. She would be going off. But instead she didn't. She told him to stand firmly, die like men. Yeah, I love my sons. But I want y'all to go and stand before the Most High, without blemish. But when the young man would in no case hearken unto him, the king called his mother and exhorted her that she would counsel the young man to save his life. And when he had exhorted her with many words, she promised him that she would counsel her son. But she, bowing herself towards him, laughing the cruel tyrant to scorn, spake in her country language in this manner: O my son, have pity upon me that bare thee 9 months in my womb, and gave thee suck 3 years, and nourished thee, and brought thee up unto this age, and endured the troubles of education. I beseech thee, O my son, look upon the heavens and the earth, and all that there is therein, and consider that Yahweh made them of the things which were not, and so was mankind made likewise. Okay, basically she's saying, look, keep your eye on the prize, keep your eye on the Most High, Yahweh B'Shem Yahushua. He the one created all this. He brought all this forth. He can give it back to you. The question now is, are you gonna stand for the Most High? Or are you gonna lay down, die down? It's basically you being trodden at fire a furnace. It's like how they say you trying to make it through something. You gotta get through this first. They want to see if you was gonna make it, like boot camp. Yeah, you're gonna be on a team if you can make it through this boot camp. We just want to see if you're gonna be tough enough to make it. This is I beseech thee, my son, look upon the heavens and the earth, and all that there is therein, and consider that Yahweh has made them of things that were not, and so was mankind made likewise. Fear not this tormentor, but being worthy of thy brethren, take thy death, that I may receive thee again in mercy with thy brethren. Okay. While she was yet speaking these words, the young man said, Whom wait ye for? I will not obey the king's commandment, but I will obey the commandment of the law that was given up unto our fathers by Moses. And thou, that hast been the author of all mischief against the Hebrews, shall not escape the hand of Yahweh. For we suffer because of our sins, and though the living power Yahweh be angry with us a little while for our chastening and correction, yet shall he be at once again with his servants. But thou, O godless man, and of all other most wicked, be not lifted up without a cause. nor puffed up with uncertain hopes. Lift up thy hand against the service of Yahweh, for thou hast not yet escaped all the judgment of the Almighty power Yahweh, who seeth all things. For our brethren who now have suffered a short pain are dead under Yahweh's covering of everlasting life. But thou, through the judgment of Yahweh, shalt receive just punishment for thy pride. But I, as my brethren, offer up my body and life for the laws of our fathers, beseeching Yahweh that he would speedily be merciful unto our nation, and that our torments and plagues mayest confess that he alone is Yahweh, and that in me and my brethren the wrath of the Almighty, which is justly brought upon all our nation, may cease. The king, being enraged, handled him worse than all the rest, and took him grievously, that he was mocked. So the man died undefiled, and put his whole trust in the Lord. Last of all, after the sons, the mother died. Let this be enough now to have spoken concerning the idolatrous feast and extreme tortures. Okay, so again, like I said, Lord willing, this lesson was edifying, and you know that this story is sticking in the back of your mind when it comes time for, you know, that the hour of temptation. You know, when you're being put forth before that microchip, you know, which is the RFID chip, which is the mark of the beast. You know, you got to be faithful unto death. You know, when it's easy to say now that you're not going to take that chip, but if you was being put in front of a big ass frying pan and you seeing your brothers being chopped up, skinned alive, and hands and tongues cut off, and then thrown into this deep fryer, still alive, what would you do? You know, would you sit there and you take the same death? And as the brothers was going down the line, they started mocking the king. You know, they came out, stuck his tongue out, put his hands forward, do what you gotta do, player. Let's get this shit over with. You know, the other ones was like, look, man, we'd rather die than forsake the powers of the Most High. You know, so Lord willing, this was this was edifying. Until the next time, I want to say all praise to Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahweh Shah. Double honors to the apostles and elders of great millstone that rule well. And salutations to you, Akim, pushing this truth and sincerity on the four corners of the earth. Shalom.